So on to District 2. There are two candidates running for this special election to replace John Park in District 2. So Blake Beyer is here today. Jennifer Owens could not be here, was invited, and just through the debate or the candidate forum format, when the candidate can't be here, we'll stick to the same timing structure and allow the candidates who could be here to answer the questions. So I'm going to give Blake Beyer 60 seconds for an opening statement.
All right, thank you. Hopefully this isn't too loud. Wanted to thank the Chamber for having us here, Rough Draft for moderating. Michael Diaz kind of stole my speech, so I think I'm just going to introduce myself. I was an Army brat, grew up all over the world. My dad was a lieutenant colonel in the Army. He retired at Fort Belvoir in Northern Virginia, and that's where we finished high school. What brought me to Georgia in 1992 was Georgia Tech. 2 degrees from there, don't hold it against me. But a civil engineering degree and an MBA. I also served in the Army. I flew Blackhawks. Hopefully I'll become the first veteran that's served on the city council. 20 years as a civilian, as a management consultant working in the C-suites of large Atlanta corporations, helping them do transformational work. We live here in Brookhaven. We've been here since 2007. Our children were born here. Our kids go to public school here. We intend to retire here. Brookhaven matters to us, and that's why I'm running.
Okay, thank you so much, Blake, for being here. Our first question is about transportation and pedestrian safety. What changes could be made to Buford Highway to increase public safety and transportation?
Well, I think we're already doing that. If you look at the Buford Highway corridor, you'll notice the medians that are going in, as well as the crosswalks with the lights. I remember when we first moved in here, before it was a city, there were a lot of fatalities, a lot of hit and runs, people crossing at night where nobody could see them. That has been greatly improved, and we're continuing to expand that up the Buford Highway corridor. Other large, high trafficked streets could probably use that, such as Peachtree. I think we just continue that work.
Okay, I have a question about City Hall. If you're elected, you'll be inheriting the $78 million City Hall project intended for government and public use. What will you do in your role to help residents understand the former City Council's goals with this property?
I think we should pause. And when I come into office, I'm going to push for us to pause. I would like us to survey the entire city so that all of our constituents could have a say in this. When I'm walking around and talking to constituents, hundreds of constituents, I've met one person who thought this was a good idea that didn't work in city government. I think the location, the cost, the mission should all be reconsidered. As many candidates already pointed out, it should be large enough to house all of city government with room to grow. This isn't as big as the city government's going to be. I just think it was a rush decision. I don't know that it needs to be on Peachtree. Is that the only spot on Peachtree that we could look at? Buford Highway, I feel, is a more natural location for it. And I'm not sure anyone really asked for a city center either. So if we're going to do a city center, does the city hall need to be there? I think these are all questions that we should ask our constituents and not have 5 people make that decision.
Our next question is about businesses. Why should a business relocate into the city of Brookhaven?
I think we are business friendly, but I don't think it was a great idea to raise taxes on all businesses to pay for this city hall. I think that hurts us as being less competitive to our neighbors. Chamblee and Doraville will gladly take businesses away from us if we aren't welcoming to them. Talking about affordable housing, we have a problem with people not being able to afford to live in Brookhaven. That chases away our pool of talent to work at our service industries here in Brookhaven. We should be working harder to be more business friendly. We should lower the cost of getting permits. We should be collaborative with our businesses and our residents with code enforcement, helping them to become compliant without taking them to court or beating them over the head or raising the costs of being compliant.
The next question is about community engagement. On the campaign trail, what is the biggest complaint you've heard from your constituents, and how do you plan to raise participation at City Hall?
By far, the City Hall. The cost of the City Hall. We should expect fewer surprises from our government. And everybody I talk to has been very surprised at the cost of this, the design. So they want to know why certain decisions were made, and we don't really know. And shame on us for not paying attention. I would like to be able to speak ahead of time, ahead of city council meetings, and basically lay out, here are the 4 or 5 things we're going to decide today in city council. In layman's terms, here's what it means to you. Here's how I'm voting and why. I think we would increase participation in city council at the opportunity where the constituents have opportunities to interface with city government if they felt like they were being heard. And I don't feel like they feel like they're being heard right now.
Okay, this is our last question, and it's regarding taxes. The Special Service District, or SSD taxes, are what funds infrastructure in the city. Currently, the millage rate is 4.0. What changes, if any, would you like to see with the SSD?
Not spending that money on the City Hall. So that is what's being used to fund the City Hall. And I hear from neighbors all the time crying for help with drainage issues in Brookhaven Fields and in Drew Valley. And I know it happened off of Hermance. And we discussed at our last city council meeting. There are multi-property issues with infrastructure that we have in this city, and the city isn't really doing much to address them unless it's election time. I would like to propose an constituents infrastructure fund that gets renewed every year that constituents can apply to and say, we have an 8-home drainage issue that was caused through no fault of our own, whether through lax code enforcement or it was before the city was created. I don't really care if the city is actually responsible for fixing it. These are our constituents and we should care for them. We can find money for that if we spend less on a monument on Peachtree.
Thank you so much. That was our last question.
Thank you.
So we'll have 60 seconds for a closing statement.
I don't think I'm going to need that. Thank you again for the opportunity to speak today. I hope you want to learn more about me. So visit my website. It's either blakeforbrookhaven.com or blakebuyer.com. On there, you'll find my bio. You'll find ways to get involved. If you want a yard sign, please let me know. If you'd like to do driveway drinks, I can show up with a cooler full of beer. If you want to have an opportunity to voice your opinion about City Hall, our government, the AGC, and Rough Draft will be publicly available to speak to you next Wednesday, October 11th, at the City Hall groundbreaking at MARTA at 10:30. I'll be there, and you should be too. I'd love to hear it from you, and I hope to see you at the many events we have scheduled coming up. Thanks again, and take care.